The White House and the Trump administration say that they are committed to the $2,000 refund check being sent to all Americans who are not high-income earners based on the tariff earnings.
Thank you so much. Trump has talked about sending out $2,000 checks to U.S. citizens. Earlier this year, he also talked about sending a Doge dividend. That didn't materialize. Should U.S. Citizens expect the $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes. And we are currently exploring all legal options to get that done. I don't have a timeline for you or any further details, but I can confirm for you that the president made it clear he wants to make it happen. And so his team of economic advisors are looking into it. And when we have an update, we'll provide one.
In this video, just to make clear, I don't think that's going to happen. I genuinely don't think the chances are high. But if it did, what would that mean for the economy? What would that mean for you? Because on the surface, obviously $2,000 sounds fantastic. Free money? Sounds good. So let's talk about it. As always, my name is Derek. I got my degree in finance. You don't have to. This will not be a long video. I will not drag this out longer than it needs to be. So first, let me get my bias out of the way. I don't think this is going to happen. Simply put, because while Trump says things that sound good, a lot of times they don't actually end up happening. He had floated a up to $5,000 refund check earlier this year based on Doge savings. That never happened. And it's not because the savings weren't there. They obviously weren't. But the real reason is because any sort of stimulus needs to be approved by Congress, and you have some fiscal hawks in Congress, primarily in the Senate, but in both chambers, that won't want this to happen. They won't let it happen, and they won't vote for it to happen. And because there's a filibuster, it's basically, on top of that, you need Democratic support or Democrat support. So I don't think this is going to happen. With that said, what if it did? Well, if it happened on the surface, right off the bat, sounds great. You can buy yourself a new TV. You can pay your rent for a month. Or potentially you could save it, invest it, maybe in 10, 15, 20 years. It's actually worth $20,000. That on the surface sounds good. The problem is we've seen what happens with direct stimulus on when it comes to large amounts just a few years ago. Okay, we had a massive pandemic-related financial crisis in 2020 and 2021. A ton of stimulus was pumped directly into the pockets of citizens. Well, as long as you were below the income threshold. Fantastic. What happened the following year? 9% inflation. 9% inflation happened. And in reality, it was probably significantly more. In fact, that inflation is exactly what Trump speaks out against nonstop when it comes to the previous administration, when it comes to Biden. But unfortunately, if you understand finance, you understand that it wasn't directly Biden, it was the whole government system. It was the Federal Reserve pumping in a ton of money to try to prop up the economy. Now, yes, that was significantly more, in the trillions. What Trump is proposing is all Americans, they said under $100,000 per year, which in my opinion is not high income. That's just a living wage, unfortunately, nowadays. But everyone under $100,000 would receive this. It's about 150 million Americans times $2,000 for this refund check. That's $300 billion. That already is above what has been made in totality this year in tariffs, which is about $195 billion. So the math already does not math. That means that the government would have to borrow money to make this happen. We run a budget deficit of close to $2 trillion, which means we don't have the money to do this, which means we would have to borrow more money than we already do to make this happen. That is also what, in my opinion, makes it unlikely. And when you listen to what Scott Bessent has to say, who is basically Trump's primary economic and financial advisor, plus being the Secretary of the Treasury, he says, we'll see.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
I think he is more aware that it is just not feasible. What is interesting is the thing has already been said. Trump already posted about this. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, already said that they are committed and that they are looking for any legal option to make this happen. But when you listen to the actual financial heads of his administration, like the Secretary of the Treasury, it is very clear that this is not going to happen. And if it did, we could experience significantly higher than average inflation. We could see inflation that I don't think would get to 9%, but we are talking about 5 or 6 or 7% inflation for that year, because you just cannot pump that much money into an economy through direct stimulus into people's pockets and expect nothing to happen. Scott Bessent knows this. I think even Trump knows this, but it sounds good on paper because the average American does not understand that direct stimulus, unfortunately, even though, yeah, great, you can pay your rent for this month. Great, you can buy extra groceries. Great, you can buy that new Xbox or PlayStation or TV that you want. Fantastic. That's fantastic. The price you pay for a little bit of pleasure, economic pleasure right now, is much more economic pain in the future. And unfortunately, the people who actually benefit with these stimulus, they're corporations, because that's where the money gets funneled anyway when you buy things. They are billionaires who are able to invest in inflation-protected assets like gold, like the stock market, like own a ton of real estate, etc. So do I think this is going to happen? No. Am I thankful that that's the case? Yes, because this is just not going to solve the affordability crisis. We need better paying jobs. That is what we need. People need to be paid a higher, livable wage, and we need the economy to grow naturally. That is what we need. We don't need direct stimulus. That is putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. With that said, I don't want to drag this video out longer than it needs to be. I don't think it's going to happen. We can come back to this video if it does. If you like personal finance, world economics, investing, then you are in the right place. If this video was informative, please consider subscribing. It's difficult to grow here on YouTube, so every subscription means the world to me. With that said, I will see you in the next video. Usually they're weekly, but they've been way more often because there's so much crazy stuff economically going on currently. So I'm sure I'll see you very soon. With that said, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care.